Hello everyone. Hope you guys can hear me. There's only a few of us on tonight. That's okay. I knew a lot of people reached out to me and said that they weren't going to be able to make it tonight, and so we're just going to keep on keeping on, and hopefully, one second. Hopefully, what we could do is just get some stuff done, and we won't go anything really super deep, so everyone can get caught up before our next live stream. But we have a lot of busy work to do on our application tonight, so we'll do some of that and reinforce what we already know about the framework. So tonight is a great night for questions if you guys have them. We can go on any tangents that you want, and I just want to make sure that you guys are getting value out of these live streams, because the last thing I want to do is waste my time or your time in these live streams. It's interesting. A lot of my views are still coming from unsubscribed people, so please, if you haven't subscribed and you want to support this channel, subscribe, like, comment, and hit the bell notification so that you're notified when I put out new videos. Also, I've noticed that YouTube is not sending a lot of notifications to people, and sometimes people are getting them weeks late. I'm not sure what's going on there. I think it's just a problem on YouTube's end. There's not really anything I can do about that. All right, so I want to just go through a couple things to show you guys what I've been working on over this last week, and we'll dive right in and get some stuff done. Let me switch my screen. All right, first and foremost, I want to make sure you guys are on the right branch. So I have created a new branch called episode_6, and as you guys are joining these live streams, and maybe you're behind on them, or this is a long time in the future, make sure you're using the code from these branches and not going off of master, because master will not be, it'll be too far in the future, and a lot of code will probably and likely change between now and the end of this project. So make sure you're on the correct branch, and you guys can find that on Bitbucket, and I can go over that in just a second. How you guys doing, by the way? How was your weeks? And comment in the comment section and let me know. All right, so I wanted to show you a couple things. In the Bitbucket account, if you go to Parham Curtis and then Rua MVC framework, made some changes to the framework. I've also made issues public so that you guys can report issues with the framework here. Make sure that you're not reporting stuff that's already been fixed. So let me show you some stuff that I fixed this week. If you go to all, you can see the status of these 4 things right here are resolved. So they are already in master and ready to go. So if you guys merge in this, these, master into your projects, you should get the newest stuff. Just be careful. Sometimes I'll have to do stuff that breaks some of your code, but don't panic. Just figure out what's different about the code and make the changes necessary. You can always get a good idea of what needs to change in your own files by looking at the files that come with it, namely the users model and the registration controller and those views. Most things, if I change anything that really breaks something, you can check those, and the changes that are made there you'll have to make in your own files if you ever decide to update. So I'm really tired tonight, so let me show you. I got coffee, I have an energy drink, and I have some water. And most importantly for the live stream, I have some Tums. So we'll see how it goes. All right, the other thing I'm really excited about, and this is still in the early stages of the rough draft, but I have been putting together documentation for the framework, and I've started with a getting started tutorial that shows how to build a really small application. And it goes through from everything from installing it to doing configuration and then going through the app. So the way this kind of works is, just kind of scroll down a little bit here. The files and the code, the source code, is going to be on the right, in this right column, and then I give explanations of what needs to be done over here on the left, right next to the code. So you can kind of go through and see how this works. So it just kind of goes through and builds out the entire app. So I'm pretty excited about this. It should take people, if they're not very experienced, it shouldn't take them an hour or less to build this tutorial application and get at least a good overview of how the framework works, and then I'm going to be building full-fledged documentation that's going to be released soon, so that every single class and method and all of that will be documented, and it will show examples on how to use all of that. So all the validators, everything. I'm going to document everything about the framework and keep up with that. And then hopefully soon we'll have the front-end website along with the documentation and stuff like that done, so that you guys have some reference to look back on. All right. So now that I just kind of showed off the documentation a little bit. Oh, by the way, that was I used I don't know if you call it a library or whatever, but there's a GitHub page. If you guys are interested, if you ever have to do any sort of documentation, if you go to GitHub and let's see, and search for Lord, what was that? Oh, now my mind's blanking on me. Let me look here. One second. Well, actually, I can just go back to here. So give me 1 second to open this back up, because the logo is still, I don't know why I can't think of the name of it right now. I've been talking about it all week. It's Slate. So go to Lord Slate on GitHub, and it actually has this documentation. If you go here, it's basically I think it's built on Ruby on Rails, but anyway, it gives you a way to fire up a server so that you can do development on it, and then when you're done, you build it, and it takes everything and puts it into strictly HTML, CSS, and raw JavaScript, so that you can just put that on your website without any real problems. And it just has all those nice styles and everything. So you just go through it, and it's actually written, you write these documentation in Markdown language. So if you ever find yourself building an API or anything like that with your applications and you need to document it, I definitely recommend this Slate. It was a breeze to work with, and it was pretty fun, and it looks great. And you don't have to spend a lot of time building something like that yourself. So Lord Slate. This is actually used by a lot of big companies too. I was interested in that. So NASA, Sony, Best Buy, WooCommerce, a lot of stuff here. So at any rate, that's neither here or there. I just thought that might be a little snippet of something that you can use in the future. All right then. So where we left off in the application last time is we had an add product form, and we made this work. So basically, we just made this work, and you can upload files and things like that, and it dumps them into the database. And let's see, in the database, it just creates a new products row. And then for the images, there's a row for each image that shares the product ID. So later we can join these tables together and get the product IDs. So then the actual images, and we had talked about this several times, I just want to reiterate it. For now, we are uploading this to our server, our local server, but it's advisable to use a separate service if you're going to be doing this. You don't really want to be uploading files that come from users onto your server. So consider like Amazon S3 or Google Cloud or another service like that. Or even there was I think it was called Nextcloud or something that one of you guys mentioned. I looked at that. It's like a self-hosted type thing. That looks pretty cool too. I think that could work as long as it's on a separate server. But it gives you API to interact with it. So that's pretty cool, I think. I didn't actually use it to see how it works or anything like that. But the structure of these product images, basically there's a product images directory, and then each product has its own directory, and inside of that has the images that we put in there. So later when we want to deleted a product, we're going to want to clean this up so we can go and easily find the directory because of this product ID and delete the entire directory and images just to clean up space. Steve, hello, welcome. You didn't miss much. I just kind of showed some documentation that I've been working on and talked about some updates that I've made to the framework and some bug fixes. So I want to say that if you guys are new here and you're worried that you won't be able to keep up because you've missed the first episodes or something like that, don't worry about that. We're just trying to get as much as we can from each episode, and you can always go back and watch the replays of the previous ones. Excuse me. All right, so where we left off is generating these products. So there's a couple things that we're going to need to do. We're going to need to finish up some CRUD operations so that we can edit these, so that we can delete them, and we need a way to see them. So what we're going to do is inside of the view products, we need to create a table to list out our products, and then we'll put in the right column of the tables, we'll put some actions that we can click on to edit the product and to delete a product and things like that. So I think we can start working on that tonight. And in the next video, I really want to get into possibly doing some things. If we don't get to it tonight, I want to get to editing and reordering the images and displaying those, and then start getting our details page hammered out so that we can have the slideshow and everything like that of the images. And then once we do that, we're going to do a little bit more advanced joining to try to build out our featured homepage that pulls in products. And we're going to create some new functionality on the products themselves, but we need to add some stuff like brands and vendors and things like that. And then ultimately, we want to get to a place where we can start building out our payment gateways as quickly as possible, because I'd like to go through more than just one payment gateway. And the reason is because not all payment gateways are available in every country. And so one of the things that was a problem with my first e-commerce site that I did back in 2015 is I just integrated with Stripe. And at that time, and even probably now, Stripe's not available in all countries. It is growing almost on a monthly basis. They have support for a new country, so it is awesome. But we are probably going to find a few different payment gateways that we can interact with. And what we're going to do is we're going to build out abstract classes so that when we build a new payment gateway, basically what's going to happen is we'll have in the configuration file, you can just choose what payment gateway you want to use, and then all the method names and stuff like that in classes are going to be the same. It's just how it interacts and makes the API calls to those payment gateways to process the payments. That will be different for each class, but it's going to all share a parent abstract class. Okay, so we're going to do some functionality in that, and then we're going to have some abstract methods that force us, when we add a new payment gateway, it'll force us to make sure we have all of the methods that are necessary. Okay, so kind of doing an implementation of that. So let's get started with building out our table. So for now, we're using Bootstrap, and now we're up to Bootstrap 4 if you've updated the framework. And it should be mostly the same if you're still on the old one with Bootstrap 3. Just some of the classes might be a little different. I'm still getting used to that myself, not a real big deal. What we're going to do for now too is we're going to just simply get our products listed. As long as they're not deleted, we're going to get them listed with some basic information in the table about them. And then we're going to add some actions so that we can go and work on editing those, and also work on deleting. So once we have that, hopefully, you know, we'll see how far that takes us in tonight's live stream. But we also need a way to start adding brands and vendors and categories and things like that we need to start segmenting our products. And then we could talk about filtering, and we're probably not going to get to any sort of pagination tonight. It's not going to be a big deal unless you have a real crap ton of products. But for right now, we're going to just put them all to the screen and make it scroll, and then we will eventually add in pagination to our tables as well. All right, so let's just get started here. Where we're working at is if you go to the app, and open up our controllers. So the controller we're in is the admin products controller. And then our model that we're going to need is, we're probably going to need the products and the product images models open. And then the view is going to be the admin products and then the index. So right now you can see that it just prints products to the screen. So that's not really what we want. We actually want to build out a table. So first and foremost, let's just go ahead and start dumping a table on here. Need to really get Emmet set up so that this is a little bit simpler of a process. I don't have that package installed right now. So we'll give this a class equal to table, and then I like doing table bordered, table hover, and then let's do table striped. I believe that's what it is. And then we can come back and add some more stuff later. But I think what we're going to include in this table is probably, let's go to our database and look what we have. But I think what we'll just do, maybe we'll do created at, maybe not, we'll see. Name, we're definitely going to have price, and just a few little snippets from here so that we know what it is. We don't need to add everything from the database into our table. Essentially all I'm trying to do at this point, and we'll add to it later, is get to a place where we can start adding our edit and delete CRUD operations, and we have a table just to quickly get there. Okay, so with that in mind, let's just do, I'm going to add a T head, and then I'm going to do, let's see, we'll do, go down here. We don't need that many columns, so T body. All right, and then here we're just going to say TH. Let's see if this works. TH. Let's just try 4. It doesn't work without Emmet. So let's see. Control Shift D. Nope. Oh yeah, Control Shift D. All right, so I'm just going to put name. Hi Khalil, nice to see you. He was in Cyprus. Awesome, man. That's a good reason to miss a live stream. Yeah, cool. So we're just starting on the table to display what products we have, and this is just in the admin area so that we can start doing basic CRUD operations. So we'll have a product name, we'll do price, and I don't know, for now we're going to end up adding a lot to this, so I'm going to leave it pretty basic right now. So I'll put shipping, and then here I'm just going to leave this empty for some actions. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to grab these things. So let's go to our products. See, we could use a simple find here inside of our controller, but I think what I want to do, since later we're going to do vendors and have a different area for each vendor, I think what I want to do is create a new method here. So we'll just go ahead and do a public static function, and we're going to call this find by user ID. And so this will take the user ID, and then we can also pass some additional params here. So we'll give that a default of an empty array so that you don't have to pass those. And then I think what I would like to do is let's just do a conditions. We're going to end up having to change this later, but that's fine. Conditions is going to be an associative array, and we're just going to say conditions. And the condition of this, did we add? I'm not sure that we added user ID yet. We did not. So I'm going to go ahead and manually add that in the database, because we actually do need that, because user ID is actually going to be, users are going to be the vendors. They'll just have a specific ACL. So let's go ahead and add in the structure here, we're going to add a new, I'm going to do this after updated at, and we're just going to call this user ID. We don't care about it being null, but we do want to set up an index on this because we're going to be searching by this user ID a lot. So anytime you guys are going to find yourself searching in a where clause, it will dramatically speed up your SQL calls if you add an index for them. Just don't go crazy with indexes. You don't want to index everything, but a user ID is a perfect example of something you do want to index. Go. Just going to hit save here. And then I'm just going to manually add my user IDs in. So my user ID is 1. So for these products, the user ID is just going to be 1. All right, and then the other thing that's important here is I want, just so we don't forget to do this, let's go ahead now and just go back to, let's add the user ID here. So we'll just do it in the same spot. So we'll say user ID, and then let's make sure that in our controller that when we're saving these products that we save the user ID. And so that's not a big deal. It'll happen only in the save. So let's go up here to the top of this post. I don't know if we need it outside of that. Just here at the top of the post, and I have this cross-site request check turned off, so I'm going to go ahead and uncomment that. But right below there, I'm going to say current user is equal to users current logged in user. Make sure we have that imported. We do not. So the other thing I'm going to do here is just kind of organize this a little bit. So let's see. It was roll up. Oh yeah, that's awesome. So I'm going to put all my core and app stuff together so I can easily see that. So then we need to add app models users. So now that we have that imported, I just want to make sure, and we have our current user set here, then right before the save we want to go ahead and we want to say product user ID, and we'll make that equal to current user ID. All right, so that is just updating our save method, so when we add a product to the database, it'll take the current logged in user's ID, place it in the database. Should be good. So now back to, we need, here's our index action. So our index action is actually going to be our table. So we're going to need to grab that. So let's go back to now to products and finish out this. So our conditions, what we want to look for is we want to make sure our user ID is equal to, and we're going to bind that. Always bind any sort of thing. I know that we're kind of sending that ourselves, but I still like to bind those values just to be safe. So we want to make sure that the user ID is equal to the user ID, and then that's pretty much all we want to do with the conditions. But let's go ahead and add our bind and then we'll talk. So here we're just going to pass down user ID, and if we wanted to be real safe, we could actually cast that to an integer as well. Then what I want to do is I'm actually going to order these things, and we'll order those by just the name of the product. And then let's see, there was one other thing. Oh, so you know how I told you that we're going to pass in params? Well, what we want to do is be able to merge these in the params into these conditions. And so the way that we're going to do that is we'll say params is equal to See if I added a function. I think I might have added a method in the core model to actually do this. Just don't remember what it is at this moment. I may not have. It would be a great thing to add though, because this is actually going to be kind of a, not a dumb way of doing it, but there's a better way of doing this, what we're about to do. It'll work for now though. Yeah, I did not add that. Okay, so I'll just add that as an issue, because I think that's a good thing to have on every model. That way we can also update that later and pass in information for pagination directly. So we'll say, we'll just say params is going to equal array merge, and then we're going to merge our conditions and params. And then what we'll do is we're going to return self find, and we're going to pass in params. Alright, so for now we're just going to use the find method to get these things. Again, later, like I said, we're going to have to do something else because we're going to have to do some joins. And I haven't decided if I want to add into the framework a way for us to just add joins into the conditions, so we can add our columns and joins here and it just builds it out for us, or if we'll just possibly just do them with raw queries. I mean, obviously we're going to use the methods that we've created, but we may want to build our query out just so that we can do exactly what we want with it and make it as efficient as possible. Okay, so now that we have this method, let's go ahead and see if it works. So back on the admin products controller in the index action, let's just, for now, let's say this view, and then we're just going to pass down products. And that's going to products, and then we'll do find by user ID, and we need that user ID. So right here at the top of the index action, let's just do current user is equal to users. You know, this would also be, the current user could also be set up here since we need it in both of these places. We could actually set current user in our on construct. I just don't know if that's necessary yet, but we have it in both of our actions so far, and it's likely that we're going to need it everywhere. So let's do that. That's actually a pretty cool idea. Not really sure why this admin products controller has all this old code in it though, so that's a problem. Let me check something real quick. I don't know how this is working. I wonder if I have a bad merge or something. Hang on. Let's just double check this. So that's right. I think what's happened is when I merged in a branch or something, this didn't get updated somehow. So first and foremost, let's fix that. So we don't need to do this anymore. What we're going to do instead is we have the public function on construct, and it's just a hook that we call into our when it runs a constructor, it'll run this. So on the on construct, this is where we actually want to set the view layout to admin, and we don't need this anymore, so get rid of that. And then what we want to do is also, we're going to say this, we could even set it in the view, but let's just go ahead and leave it on the controller. So we're going to say this current user is equal to users, and then we'll say current logged in user, and then inside of our actions, then we can just say this current user ID. So let's before I move on from that, let's just go ahead and do a dump and die here, and let's look at this. I just want to make sure that is set up the way that I think it's going to be. So we got a problem. Current logged in user. there's a chance I called it something different than that. Oh, it's just current user. Let's update that really quick. We have current user. Back to my old self here. Not typing. All right, so we have the current user is set. It looks correct. So we're all good there. So I think that's going to be a good way to handle this, because I can't imagine there's going to be any actions in this products controller that really won't need this current user. So I don't think it's a waste to do it in the on construct. It is an extra database call if by chance we don't need it, but we can cross that bridge when we get there. So then right here, and by the way, it's not an extra database call per se, because it's going to do it once anyway, and then it sets that as a static deal, so it's a singleton. So regardless, it's actually just going to set it one time. And then what we're going to do is down here, let's just replace in our product here this current user. We don't actually need to do that anymore because, well, that was the wrong method anyway, first of all. And then second of all, we have this available to us in our add action by just doing accessing this current user ID. So that should work. And the next thing that I want to do is let's go ahead and do our dump and die here and look at this again, so that actually I'm just going to look at this view so that we can actually see if we're getting the products return that we expect to get back. Refresh. All right, so let's see. Looks like we have 6. It's returning 6 products. Let's go and look at our products table. Something's weird there. Oh no, that's not. It's just 6 things in our view. So I didn't actually put this view products, but products here. Let's look at that. So there's 2. There's an array of 2 products returned, which is what we expect. Both of those. And if I remove this and I say put this at user ID 2, then if we refresh, there should only be 1 in that products array, which there is. So I feel pretty good about that at this moment. So we don't really need, yeah, I think we're good there. So I'm gonna go back and fix this. I was just double checking our method, which this is a great way to, like, I haven't set it up yet, but I've normally, when I'm developing on the back end, I normally write a unit test first. I know what I want to return, and I write a failing unit test, and then write my methods for that the unit test is testing, and then make sure it's returning what I suspect. That method of writing code is called test-driven development. So it's basically a really cool way to do it, because you don't have to keep going back and refreshing the pages and stuff like that. You live inside your editor, and you can just run PHP unit on that method. And when it passes, if you've written your test correctly, anywhere you use it should be good. So once you get used to that flow, it's really cool, because then you have all your unit tests written too. And so before you do deployments or anything like that, you can run PHP unit and test all of your methods and make sure you haven't inadvertently broken something when you change something else. But I thought that was a little bit out of the scope of this project, but I think I'm going to do a series at least where I show how to use PHP unit and do unit tests, and then maybe talk about test-driven development when we do that. But that would have been a perfect example of how to do that instead of going and do those dump and dies and things like that. Okay, so let me just double check my stream, make sure everything's going good. I believe everything, it doesn't look like it's killed me or anything yet, so hopefully you guys are all hearing me well. It always confuses you Yeah, maybe that would be a good thing to do then. I tell you what, unit testing confused me when when I was programming by myself. Um, when I was like a freelancer or just doing work, I didn't see it. I was like, man, that's such a waste of time because you're basically writing double the code for everything you need to do because you have to write code in order to test code that you're writing. So you're like, why would I even do that? Well, when you start working with a team, then there's a lot of other developers that can break your stuff, and so it's good. And plus, the code base will often get so big. It often gets so big that you know, that you don't even know when you're changing something if you're breaking something else. So I do want to do a series on that at some point, but we're not going to get into that now because I don't want to get off track here. Not that we're on any sort of hardline track or anything like that. We're just kind of hanging out and developing some stuff together. So now that we have this products passed down to our view, if we go back to our actual view now, we can loop through those in our body and print a table row for each one. And so what I'd like to do is we'll probably do an AJAX call for the deletion of this. And so what we want to do is go ahead and put a data ID attribute into this as well. So I'm going to do that. But first, let's go ahead and just do our loop here. So I like to do my for each is like this. So you say this products as product, and then I like to use this syntax here, where we break out of the for each loop, and then down here you just say end for each, and then we do our HTML in here. It's actually it's not just about coding style, but it actually speeds up the application so that you're not echoing, like using an echo function to echo out PHP. If you break out of the PHP, go through the HTML, come back in, it actually is faster. And it also, in my opinion, it looks nicer. But that's just my opinion. I didn't like it at first because I was so used to having those curly braces with everything. So here what we want to do is we're going to say we want a TR for each product row, and then I want to put a data ID attribute here, and that data ID attribute is just going to, we're just going to echo out product ID like that. And then what we'll do is do a TD for each one, and then I'm going to jump down, and then for each one of these we're just gonna I'm gonna copy and paste this. And then here this is going to be name, and this will be price. We'll do some sort of money function on that. And then this will be shipping, which will also do a money function, just a display function there. All right, let's take a look at that. All right, so the other thing I want to do is that's really big. So I think what I want to do is go ahead and add one more class to this, and I think it's table condensed. Remember, this is an admin area, so it's not your front-end users aren't going to see this. Man, what is that? Let me go back to Bootstrap, see if I can find that, what that class is. It may be different for Bootstrap 4. I'm so used to Bootstrap 3 that I haven't really learned this yet. I like the dark tables. I think that looks pretty cool. Huh, they changed it from condensed to small. Interesting. Some of their choices on what they changed is like, why did you do that? Because you didn't, people wouldn't have to make so many changes to upgrade if they didn't change all their class names for stuff. Like, one thing I absolutely hate about Bootstrap 4 so far, which the thing I love about it is it uses Flexbox. The thing I absolutely hate about it is they changed a lot of class names, but the form validation stuff, they got rid of the class that wraps everything. to where you can actually target stuff inside of the form group, and they just added a class for the actual span for the help block because they got rid of help block as well. And then there's no way to style the label yet, and then you have to give is valid or is invalid as a class to the inputs. And I think that's just so stupid. I don't know why they chose to do that. It might be something to do with like accessibility and screen readers, and they were having issues with some of that. I don't know, but I really liked how they did it before. All right, well, we don't really want to display these prices like this here. I mean, we could, but, well, you know what? We've limited those to 2 decimal places in the um, actual database, but we're probably going to need it anyway. Let's just go ahead and, this sucks. What sucks, Khalil? Sorry, man, if I'm disappointing you, but if you can be more specific, I might be able to help you out and change it. So, all right. Well, I didn't mean to disappoint you guys. So let's look at the product here, and over here we're going to have these 2 new actions for our AJAX call that we fire off delete, and then our edit to take us to the edit form. Let's go ahead and look at that real quick. We'll add some font awesome buttons here. So the first one we're going to add, oh, the Bootstrap thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the Bootstrap thing. Some things I really like, and some I don't. So let's do this. I'm just a little insecure there, Khalil, because honestly, like, since I've started doing these live streams, I thought these would be really helpful for people, but I've actually, most of my live streams have lost me subscribers instead of gained, and so I assume people just aren't really digging this. But I'm going to keep doing it because, well, one, I committed to you guys that I'm going to do it, and I don't care if I lose some subscribers over it if it's helping other people. I'm not really sure why people would unsubscribe if they don't like it. They just don't come to the live stream and they watch the other videos. But I don't know. I'm trying to figure the whole YouTube thing out too. So you know, I'm not perfect, and I'm going to make a ton of mistakes until I figure everything out, and I'm still going to make mistakes after that because that's who I am. But anyways, what I want to do here is add a couple links, and the first link is actually going to be a legit link. But the next one, what I want to do is it's not going to be a link. It's actually just going to be, well, it'll be a link, but we're going to use the onClick to fire off an AJAX call to delete the products. Okay, so let's just go ahead and dump that out real quick. And what I want to do here is use the I not used any longer tag. And what we're going to do is do, I think it's fast edit. All right. So let's go ahead now and the other thing I want to do, I think I'll make these buttons. We'll see how that looks. It might be too much. So they used to have a button XS for extra small. I don't know if they still do. And then this will be, let's just see what that looks like. What did I screw up here? Class fast edit. I don't know if that's yeah, let's go and look at, I could have screwed up the class name on that. So we're using Font Awesome 5 now because Bootstrap did away with glyphicons, which I like Font Awesome better anyway. All right. Yeah, Khalil, I agree. I'm trying not to do any more editing. I did that one video where I edited the framework, but I'm trying not to edit the framework. Um, anyways. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm hoping that people can. I'm hoping that people can. Uh, that's why I'm giving the. I need to add some sort of intro video to these to give people like the ability to see how to get caught up quickly and to know what branch to check out so that they can just jump into a live stream and then go back and get caught up later on the ones before. So let me look for edit here. I don't know why. I'm probably making a stupid mistake just because I don't do this stuff every day. I usually use React for all my front end stuff. We have so many components and stuff built. It is font edit. I must have a typo somewhere. You guys probably see this. Button small I. Class attribute. Am I crazy? Anyways, maybe my eyes will see that in a second. So I'm just gonna move on from that, and then well, one problem. This isn't what's causing our issue, but I put the class names in the href because we need it, which that's crazy. I really should move these to the mornings before I work. After I work all day, I'm just toast. So, all right. So then what we want to do is inside of our href, we're going to just echo out our project root, and then we're heading to let's see. We're gonna head to admin products, and then if you remember, we had this add, and then instead what we want to do is we want to send them to edit and then the ID. So admin products edit and then ID. So we'll do that, admin products edit, and then here we're going to go ahead and echo out product ID. All right, let's go back here, check those links, make sure they're good. So they look good to me. I don't know if it shows the pop-up on the screen recorder of the actual link. So let's see. It's also not. Must have my buttons wrong as well. So I'm going to go ahead and look in the documentation for components. I think they put it there. Button. See what their size is. Is button small? And then I'm going to use the secondary button like that. All right, so that's a button. I don't know what's up with the thing right now. Actually, you know what? Just double check this. I'm gonna look at, what was that? Let's look at all. So this might be another merge issue too. Let's look at the views and then layouts. Oh, I know what this problem is. It's because we're in the admin. So if I go to the default layout, I need to copy this Font Awesome link. And we actually need to update a lot of this. admin thing here. Or maybe I did that last time, but I didn't add this font awesome. So let's see what happens now. There's our little icon. So that was the deal. Our admin layout actually wasn't including that here. It wasn't linking it in, so that was the issue. All right. The next thing I want to do is this is what I really do like about the new Bootstrap, is I can do something like this and just say mr-1 and do a class that says, hey, give it a margin right, and then they have like 1 through 5 on this. So if I add another class here, and we're going to do button small, and then we're going to do button danger, I think is what it's called. And this, the href doesn't matter. I'm just going to put $sign here because we're going to do an AJAX call, and then we'll have an on click. All right. So here, let's see, we're going to do I'm going to get rid of this edit here in this because I just want the icons, I think. So this font awesome, I think is called trash. Yeah. So trash alt, I think I like. Maybe. Yeah. Let's use that one. All right, and let's see how that looks. Okay. And right now this table looks a little crazy because my screen's so wide with the resolution, but also we're going to be adding a ton more probably to this, like brand and vendor and categories and crap like that. So these actions will end up all the way over here. But what we could do as well is just go ahead and give this thing a class of text right, and let's Bootstrap change that. Just at least throw those over to the right or something like that. All right. So next, what I want to do is let's go ahead and, I don't know if we would do edit yet, but this is set up to work. But obviously we haven't added that action to our controller yet. So let's go ahead and do this AJAX call to delete these things. So first I'm going to add just a bunk product that I want to delete. Delete me. 2, 1, 2. And then let's see, I'm just going to add one of these. All right, so we got our product added of delete me, and so now what we need to do is add, and I don't know where we're going to put this eventually, you know, I don't know where we're going to put this at some point, but right now what we're going to do is build out our delete action. So let's put it at the bottom here, and it's good that we already have this. So what we can, this is going to be a super simple action. So it's going to be public function delete action, and this is going to be so simple. But basically here what we want to do is we want to make sure that it's post. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up a response, and the response is going to be an associative array, and we're going to by default just set it to success false, and then I want to set message equal to just like something went wrong. All right, so that's going to be the default response here, and then what I want to do is do if this request. Remember, we have inside of our controllers we have a request object that's built out. So if this request is post, then I want to do something. I want to make sure that it's posted, which will come from our AJAX call. But here what we want to do is get our ID, and so we're going to say ID is equal to this request. Dang it, I keep this request get, and then we're just going to look for ID. Now we're using this request get because that method will actually sanitize and trim our user input. So it's one more layer of it just helps with SQL injection and other things like that. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, and then what we want to do is we're gonna find that by ID. So super chat, unfortunately this isn't featured in your region. Sorry, man. But thanks for trying. That's awesome. So thank you to my super chatters. But anyway, we're gonna do this AJAX request, and what we want to do is we need a new method to find this. And so we're going to go to products, and we're going to use this quite often. So this is a good one for us to build right now. So let's add one more method here, and we're going to call this, instead of just find by user ID, we'll do a public static function, and then we're going to say find by ID and user ID. Okay. So this is going to take two parameters. Okay, the first thing it's going to take is our ID, and the next one will be the user ID. So this is going to be a super simple method because we're just going to use our find first method. So let's go ahead and build out some conditions, and we'll set that inside of our array here that we're going to pass into our find first method. We're just going to say conditions, and then we want to make sure that they are the owner of the product that they're trying to delete, so that they can't just post a random ID and delete someone else's product. So this is going to make sure that they are the owner of that product. So what we want to say is ID is equal to, and that'll be the first bound value. And then what we want to do is say and user ID is equal to our second bound value. So then we're going to set up our bind, and here we're just going to pass in our, and we can even run this through, cast that to an integer, and then we can do the same thing here, which it probably isn't necessary to cast this to an integer, but these are going to, at least the ID is going to be coming from user input. So I'm just going to go ahead and cast that just to help as well, to make sure, like, if they somehow get something else through there, it's going to actually end up being 0 or something crazy, and it won't return anything. And then what we're going to do is, so now that we have our conditions built out, all we need to do is do a return self find first, and then we're going to pass in our conditions to that. That's all we need to do there. And this method we're going to end up using quite often. We'll probably use this method when we do our details page and things like that. So let's see. Oh, we may not, but we'll need it again. So now that we have that, and we can verify that they are indeed the owner because we're finding this, if it comes back false, we're going to kick them out of here. Okay, so we need to check product, and that's going to be equal to products, and then we'll use our static method that we just built. So find by ID and user ID, and we're going to pass in the ID that we got from the request, and then we're going to remember on our on construct we're setting up this current user, and then we can pass an ID. So then what we want to do is we're going to say if not product. Actually, you know what? We don't even need to do that. We're just going to say if product. Okay, because it's going to go ahead and travel down our action if it doesn't exist. So if there is a product, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to say product delete. And then what we want to do is change our response. So then we'll say response, and we're going to do success, and that's going to be true. And then our message is actually going to be product deleted. You guys can tell some stuff I've been working on at work. I'm just randomly typing stuff like contact. All right, so now that we have that, all we need to do is do our response so that our AJAX call knows what's going on. So our controllers have a method called this JSON response, which sets up the headers and it does a JSON encode and then kills the request. So we're just going to pass in our response into that. So that's that. If they try to delete a product that they don't own by just making a post or whatever, or manipulating the HTML in some way, this product is going to come back as false. So what's going to happen is this response that we originally set, the success, something went wrong, is going to get passed down to here. All right. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to want to go ahead and set up our AJAX request and then also do some confirmation. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our index page here, and then down here close to the end of our body, I'm just going to go ahead and add a couple script tags here. All right, and what we're going to do, I think, is set up a function, and we're going to call this delete product. Okay, and this delete product is going to take one variable and it'll be ID, and then what we want to do is we want to actually confirm before we run anything. Okay, so we want to just double check, are you sure you want to delete this? So we're just going to use a basic JavaScript confirm. There's libraries that we can install or whatever to do prettier looking ones or whatever, but at this point we're just trying to get this delete stuff done, and we can make it pretty later if we want. But so do I have any questions so far? Did I lose anybody on anything that I did? I jumped around between files quite a bit. I just want to make sure that you guys are on the same page with this delete action and this find by ID and user ID, and then the index right here. All right, so I'm going to wrap all this in an if statement, and I'm going to say if confirm, and I'm not sure if we need to scope that to window. We'll try it without first, but so if confirm, I say are you sure you want to delete this product? It cannot be reversed. So if they confirm that, so let's go ahead and check that real quick. Just make sure that worked. Yeah. Semicolon bandit. 39. All right, so let's try that out. I'm going to click that. That did not work. So let's go ahead and scope that to window.confirm. Still not working. Let's go ahead and open up our console. I could have just the wrong function name here. Oh, you know what we forgot to do, or I forgot to do. You guys probably knew this. We don't actually call in that function. So on the on click, we just need to pass in this product, and then what we're going to do to keep that little hashtag from jumping up there is we're going to do a return false, and then what we're going to say is delete product, and we need to pass in the product ID here. All right. Refresh. All right, so then we got our alert. It says, are you sure you want to delete this product? Cannot be reversed. Cancel that. So now we're good to go with our AJAX request. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that on our AJAX request here so we can see that working. The next thing that I want to do is I actually don't want this to delete yet. So I'm going to go ahead and just comment out the delete so we can do some testing. I don't have to keep adding a product here. So let's get rid of that. All right, so let's try that again. All right, we're looking good. So now let's go ahead and again, guys, I'm used to using other stuff besides what we're using here, but since we already have it installed, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and use jQuery.ajax for this. You guys can use whatever you want. If you want to use Axios or Fetch or anything else. Yeah, we could do that too, Khalil, if you want to have the name of the product. Yeah, let's do that. We'll do that in a second. So in our AJAX request, we can go ahead and say the AJAX request actually takes just, if I remember correctly with jQuery, it just takes an object and you pass in your URL. And so the URL is going to be our proot, and then it will be, actually I need to put this in quotes. So then we're making the call to admin products, and it's going to the delete action, and yeah, that's it. So the next thing we need to do is we need to tell this the method, which in our case we want this to be post, because remember we're checking that it is a post. We're not doing like a delete method or a put or anything like that. I don't know what, just my keyboard just typed in a whole thing there, or autocomplete, I guess. All right, so then so the method, and then we're going to need to pass in the data for the post data, and this is actually just going to be ID. That's all we're posting. We could just say ID there, but we might change the name of that, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it in that format. And then you have the success, and that's an anonymous function. So we'll do our response from that. And for now, what I want to do is just, I want to console log that response. So let's see what happens there. So it makes the AJAX request. It got a status of 200. And then let's go ahead and look at the headers here. Look at the headers. Looks like it is a post. That's good. The response headers is coming back as an application JSON with a character set. That happens because of our JSON response method that we called inside the controller. And then down here in our form data, we have our ID, and it's passing 24. All right, so then our preview, it comes back and it gives us our message and our success function. So that means it found the product in the database and we had access to it. But let's try to do something else. Let's try to manipulate this a little bit and just see what happens. So what I want to do is I'm going to change this delete here, the user ID to 2. And then what I want to do is let's just manipulate this AJAX call. So we're just going to test to make sure they can't do anything funky here. So it's not showing up here because I'm not the owner of that product. But what I want to do is, let's see, let's go down to our table, and I'm going to change. I'm going to change this right here. Oops. Let's see. Come on, there we go. That product was 25, so I don't own that. And so what I want to do is now that I've changed that, this should actually fire off for 25. And now let's go and look at our network. See that? Hang on, I think I put that in the wrong spot. Oh, I did that in the edit thing, so that doesn't matter. I needed to do that here in the product ID. We're just testing this, so this is just an example of what someone might try to do on the front end. So try that. Let's go back to our network. Okay, so now we see that we have the message coming back as something went wrong and false because we weren't the owner of that product. I'm gonna go back and change that back so I know that that's working correctly. Refresh. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and set up an alert message to pop up and let them know what happened, whether it failed or not. So inside the success function, we're just going to say if response.success, then we're going to set, actually, before we do that, just above that, I'm going to say var message type, and we're going to set message type equal, and we're going to use a ternary, and we're going to say if response dot success, then I want to set the message type to we could do success, but I'm going to say dark, and else I'm going to set that to danger. Okay, and then inside this response, we're gonna remove that row from the table. And then after all of that, what we're going to do is we're going to use the alert message function that we have, and we're going to pass in our response.message, and then for our second parameter, we're going to pass in our message type, like that. And then Khalil asked, why not use the delete method? Quite honestly, the reason I didn't use the delete method is because the post works well. And honestly, I haven't set up inside of our, I just haven't set up yet inside of our requests. So if you look in core, I need to add this, but maybe I did do it. So if you look in the input class, I have is post, is put, and is get, but I didn't do the request method for the delete one. So I didn't want to update the framework here on this video because I'm kind of trying to commit to not doing that. So we're going to use post, but in the future, if we add that delete method, we absolutely can do that as well. That's not a real big deal. I usually use post for almost everything, unless I'm actually building an API that's front facing. But if I'm building an API basically for myself that I'm using with like a framework like React or something, then a lot of times I just use post. All right. So now it's going to let's test that out. Refresh, and what should happen is this comes back successful. It popped up and it said product deleted, and it used dark. I think let me go back here. This is not a Bootstrap thing, but I did use the Bootstrap styling for these alerts. So let me see which one I actually want to use. Yeah, I guess that is dark. We could use success. I just don't really like the way success looks. I mean, this is just a personal preference, so it doesn't even matter. I mean, you guys can set your CSS however you want, but this could very well just been success like that. And if you guys don't know, if you look, I don't think Khalil was here when I talked about this, but essentially in the framework I added JavaScript alerts. So this will pop up, and by default it comes up for 5 seconds, and then it will go back down after 5 seconds. And then there's 8 different types that you could pass in. By default, it uses the info if you don't pass in a type. So you can just only pass in a message if you want, and that's just text. And then the third parameter, you can actually set the duration. So by default, it's set to 5,000 milliseconds, which is going to be 5 seconds. But I can set that to 3,000 milliseconds, and if I refresh and then do that, then this is only going to stay up for 3 seconds instead of 5. So it's fully customizable with those 3 parameters, but I just wanted to, it's just going to be a 5-second deal. All right, so now that we have the alert message, and if it's not a successful thing, what it's going to do is that'll be danger, and then it's going to pass in that thing that we told it, like, oops, something went wrong, or whatever we want to say there. All right, so the last thing, little bit that we need to do here is we actually want to find this row and delete the entire row. So Khalil also, yeah, thanks for the, I love it too, actually. I can't believe that it's turned into a kind of a framework that's usable. It was supposed to be just a YouTube course. But I actually, I didn't show you because you weren't here yet, I don't think. You can stop me if I'm wrong, but I've started on documentation for the framework. And so I've started on, right now, this is just a the first draft of a getting started tutorial where you go through and build out an entire app. And so what it does is basically the code's on the right hand side, and then I explain what's going on the left. And then it shows every file, and then you just go through and you build out this little address book application. It just gives you a basic brief overview, but what I'm starting on after I do a lot of the revisions on this, fixing grammatical errors and things like that, and what I'm going to do is do full-fledged documentation, so every method and everything that's available inside of the framework will be available in the documentation. So every method, everything will be there. So that's what I'm working on, and we're gonna put that up on the front end site, and it's just a lot of work to do all that documentation. No, it's not online yet. Sorry, I actually just finished this rough draft up this week and sent it off to a few buddies of mine to try it and go through it, make sure everything works. And then I'm not very good at grammar, so there's a lot of grammatical errors in here and probably some spelling errors. Maybe some even, well, there's probably no typos in the code because I know that works, but there's a lot of typos in these descriptions and stuff like that. So I've got to just go through and clean it up, and then it will be released soon is my goal. So it's a lot of work writing documentation, I can tell you that, but I'm committed to, as I fix things and add things to the framework, I'm always going to update the documentation. And also I want to show you guys, if you find issues with the framework or you have suggestions or you want a feature added, go to the Bitbucket and go to issues, and you can see the things I've already resolved if you change the filter by all. But if there's something that's not resolved that you know of as a bug or whatever, just go ahead and submit it, create an issue, and tell me if it's a bug or an enhancement or a feature request or whatever, and give me as much information as you can. That would help me out a lot, and I'll continue fixing these. So I did all 4 of these this week, along with the documentation and everything else I'm doing. So anyhow, that's just a recap for those of you who weren't here in the beginning. So you left Cake PHP, wow. I actually haven't used Cake PHP much. The main framework that I'm actually really familiar with that I use all the time is Falcon PHP. And Falcon's a little bit different than most frameworks because it's actually written in C instead of PHP, and it's installed as like it's installed into PHP just like PDO. It's basically a PHP extension, but it's a framework, and so it's blazing fast, and it's actually really awesome. So I actually like Falcon, and I tell people to use it all the time. But you know, this framework it serves a different purpose than Falcon. You know, this is like a real lightweight thing, and you don't have to do any server setup or installing extensions or things like that. So at any rate, my coffee's about gone. I'm going to have to switch over to the energy drink because I am tired. All right, so the next thing we want to do is let's just go ahead and find that row in our database by the ID. So what we want to do, yeah, exactly. It's not supported on all hosts because you can't always change the PHP configuration or install extensions that aren't already there. Something in my eye. All right, so the response. So basically, the only other thing I want to do here is I'm going to return just to be double safe, and I don't even know if that's a word. But the other thing I want to return here is I'm going to return the model ID, and what I want to put in there, we're just going to pass in the ID back to the response. Oops. So we're going to pass the ID back to the response, and then we're going to, when this response comes back and it's going to have the model ID, we're going to find this row by that ID and just remove it so they don't have to refresh to see anything change. So let's try that real quick. Go to the index, and then I'm just going to use jQuery to find that. You don't have to, but since Bootstrap's installed on this framework and jQuery is already here, we're not really adding bloat or anything to use it, so might as well just use it. So we're actually going to look for we're going to look for a TR, and it's going to have the data ID equal to I'm going to break out here, and we'll say response dot model ID, and then what we need to do is just do dot remove. I believe that's a jQuery way of doing that. This is why I love this right here, this kind of crap. This is why I love React and Vue and stuff like that, because honestly, like, having to go in and update your, like, finding all your elements and updating them manually when something changes, that stuff, that's what React and stuff like that's really beautiful. It handles that stuff so awesome. So let's just try it out. We're not actually deleting it from the database yet, but it should. Yeah, so product deleted, and it just pops it off there. But because we're not actually deleting it, if I refresh, it's back. So we can actually just delete all these things. What would also be nice is if there's no products, we don't show the header, and we actually probably either forward them directly to here, or we give them a message and a button to say add your first product. And since we're kind of building this in a way that where vendors can sign up to sell their own products, it's probably a good idea to add a little bit of UX into that, so that they don't just come to their products and it's like this empty table or whatever. Yeah, jQuery still yesterday. jQuery is actually still really nice for a few things, but I find myself using more vanilla JavaScript all the time. Just like when I find stuff, it's just a little faster. I don't know. jQuery is like, I want to love it still just because the developers of jQuery put so much energy and time and effort into it. So Steve says, Curtis, you have given this project a lot of your time. Trust me, the reward for this will surely be great one day. Yeah, I hope so. Honestly, I don't really care what comes of it. To be quite frank with you guys, like, this framework for me is the reason that I'm building it so like I am right now is because I've worked for several years in the same company that's like a software as a service company, and it's all like non-disclosure. I can't show any source code. I can't show anything that I've done for like the last 5 years. And so the only code that I have to show people if I want to get a new job or if I want to freelance, the only code I really have to show is stuff that I did when I was a junior developer, just like really old stuff, like back in 2013, 14, and 15. And it doesn't represent my skills or what I know now as a developer. And so one thing I'm going to use this for is just, hey, it's kind of my portfolio. Like, here's a PHP framework I wrote. You can look through it, and at least if I'm applying for a PHP job, they'll know that I can hang with some object-oriented programming or something. I don't know, but that's one reason. The other reason is honestly, like, you guys. I guess the portfolio is just an added bonus I just realized the other day. but you guys have given me so much support and just kind words that I'm just like, I want to make it awesome. Just that you guys have something that you understand that you built with me that you can use. And so, you know, I don't know. I don't care really what becomes of it, as long as you guys get something out of it and it enhances your life in some way. If you get one job because of it, or one gig, or one side job, or a hustle, or something from using it, or whatever, you know, that for one person it was worth it for me. So anyway, let me switch back to my screen and stop blabbing. So the other thing that we need to do actually is we need to delete our, so I don't really want to delete this product yet. So here, where I have this would actually go ahead and delete the product from the database. But I don't want to delete it yet, because I don't want to keep adding these products that I'm going to delete. So what I want to do is, when I delete a product, I need to delete the images as well. Do I freelance? That's a complicated question. I don't think I should answer that on YouTube. Maybe I will. I don't know. The real answer is this. When I agreed to work at the place I work, I kind of committed myself to work there. And so I can't really do too much freelancing out in the open. I can do small projects and things like that, and I have done bigger projects since I started working there. But honestly, I love the people I work for, and so if I'm going to spend a bunch of time developing something, I'd rather help that product be successful and spend my time, my extra time on the nights and weekends, instead of doing freelancing, just making their product better, so that that family reaps all the benefits. Because they gave me a chance as a an intern through Launch Code that a lot of companies wouldn't give me without having a college degree and not any real experience other than, you know, whatever. But the issue is that I don't know, I'd just rather help them out. And sometimes if I get hung up on money, because I could make more money somewhere else too than the place I work, I just feel really loyal to them. It's a small kind of company, and they don't pay as well as a lot of other places would, but I love them. You know, they're good people, man. I remember one time my car broke down, and I was taking care of my dad, and he was in the hospital, and my boss just kind of like paid somebody to take my car and fix it. So anyhow, JJ says it should be better to hide or soft delete a product instead of deleting it permanently. I totally agree, JJ, and I think we've already set that up to do so. Yep, we have a deleted column here set to 0. So when we actually delete it, it will set that to 1. So it's actually up to you guys if we want to clean up the server and actually remove the product images. Because what if we soft delete these with the understanding that they may be able to have the ability to undelete them. So essentially, if we're using this more like an archive instead of a delete, then we may not want to delete the images. The reason that we want to do soft delete and not let them undelete it, the reason we want to keep that information is because later what we can do is use this information for reporting and stuff like that. And we can actually do suggested products, and we can keep all the information of these products in our database so that we can show people like, hey, you sold this product, this product, this product. But if we delete it from database, we no longer have that data anywhere. And so we are soft deleting it. I just don't know if we want to give the ability to undelete. And if we are, then we probably don't want to delete the images. So I'll let you guys give me some suggestions on what you think we should do there. Personally, I don't think it'd be that big of a deal if we deleted the images, and if they wanted to undelete it at some point, they could have the product and all the information and the history behind the purchases and stuff like that still tied to it. They would just have to re-upload any product images or new product images for it if they wanted to go live with it again. And we could actually do both. We could do an archive column and kind of set it to where later on they could actually archive it and or turn it off, but it's still available, and then if they get more in stock or something, they can just unarchive it and it's back. So we could do both, I mean, honestly. So we can just leave this as a delete and go ahead and delete images, but we'll also add an archive, I think, and that'll be super easy to do. It's basically the same logic as a delete, except we won't delete the images, and we'll give them some sort of interface to go back and add it back in, like turn it back on or whatever. I'm a big fan of soft deleting most of the time in the database because keeping all that data is not really going to hurt you. MySQL is so fast that I don't ever worry about like having millions of rows or anything like that. As long as your queries are good, it's not going to be a problem. The only problem it might get is like size, so you have to pay for a little bit more server space or whatever. But now servers are so cheap and stuff like that that I don't know. I'd rather keep it, but with some of the laws that are being passed now with some of the privacy stuff, at least in some countries, I don't know, sometimes you can't soft delete stuff. Sometimes legally, if someone says delete this, you have to destroy all records of it, so that, you know, and it's only on certain information, obviously. But just keep that stuff in mind, guys, when you're deciding whether to soft delete or to actually delete a row. By a long shot, though, soft deleting is way safer, because if something goes wrong and you're doing some customer support or something, as a developer, you can easily just go in a database and fix stuff, right? All right, so let's just keep moving on here. So let's look at our product images, and what we want to do here is, on our product images, we have one method here for upload product images, and that basically inserts into the database. But we need to create a method where we can find all of our product images by the we want to find them by the product ID and delete those rows in the database, which, when I say delete, most likely I'm talking about soft deleting. So we look at here, we also have soft delete set up for our product images. So we'll soft delete those just to clean that up, and then we're also gonna go ahead and go to our uploads folder and delete the actual image or group of images or whatever. So it's kind of a two-part thing. So I think what we'll do is let's create a new method here in the upload product images. We're gonna call we'll do this as a static function. So public static function delete images. We don't really even need to do that. We're just gonna call it delete because it's already scoped inside of this model. So we'll say delete, and then it's gonna take a couple things. The first thing it's gonna take is product image, or product ID rather, sorry. So product ID, and then I think what we'll do is let's give ourselves the ability to not delete the product image with a parameter here. So we can choose to or choose not to. So and we can set the default however we want, but what I'm going to say is we'll set this unlink. We'll just call it unlink, I guess. So unlink, and we're going to set that to false. So by default, if you just pass a product ID, it's going to delete all of the images, soft delete all the images that have that product ID. Okay. Now, if you pass true as a second parameter, we also wanted to go ahead and delete the folder as well. So that way we can use this kind of for double duty later on. Like, so if we decide to do the archive stuff, we can use the same delete function to delete them, but later we can undelete them and they would still live there. All right, so what we'll do is we want to find them all. So we'll just do, let's just do a self, images equals self find, and then here we're just going to pass in an array, and we'll say conditions. Here we're going to say product ID, and we're gonna bind that. So we'll say bind, and we'll pass in the, oh, somehow I jumped out of there. We'll pass in the product ID. All right, and then so that'll give us all of our images, and then what we have to do then is just loop through them. So say we could do this with an update too, but we'll just say for each images as image, and then we'll just say image delete, and let's just double check. Yeah, so we have soft delete turned on. So it's just going to go into that table and set those deleted columns to 1. So it's actually not going to, it's not actually going to, I always do that with conditions. I don't, you know what it is? It's like this keyboard, I'm used to using a Mac, and I do weird stuff on this keyboard. I don't know if you guys are used to just only developing on one keyboard, and then you switch keyboards, and you're just like, your fat fingers are just hitting crap all over the place. That's what I do. I mean, obviously I probably do that in real life on my own other keyboard too, but good catch. Okay, so then this unlink, this is going to be real easy for us to do as well, because we just need to add, basically we just need to add an if statement. So we'll say if unlink, then we just need to find those uploads. So we'll say unlink, and then all we have to do here is say project root, and then so, man, I'm so freaking out of it today. So we're in PHP already. I'm just used to being in a view or something. But we're gonna just go ahead and do our product root, and then remember it was in uploads, and then it was in product images. Yep, product images. And then we're actually looking for the product underscore, and then we're going to concatenate on the product ID. So the way that looks, it's uploads, product images, and then we're just going to remove this entire directory. So if it say it's product 13, it's going to unlink this, which should delete the entire directory, I hope, if we don't have any crazy permission problems and things like that. Let's go ahead and test this out. We should have, let's see. We have products, product 25, but didn't actually upload that image. I don't know what happened there. I'm gonna test that. Let me see. Cannot make non-static method static. Did I do that? Delete is non-static. Did I call it statically somewhere? Didn't there. Oh. Wait, what? Product images.php line 44. Isn't even a line 44. Obviously I got a problem here. Self-find images for each images as image, which delete link. Oh, we can't call this delete because there's already a delete method. So I guess we'll just call it delete images. That's what's happening. Really dumb today. All right, let's go ahead now and yeah, testing time. So delete me too. For some reason, it didn't upload our images earlier, and I don't know what that's all about. We had that tested and working real nice. The last let's see. Wow, okay, well something's broke with our uploader. Let's see, is it adding them to the database at least? I don't think it is. Sure is not. Son of a gun. You guys were here last week. You saw all this work. All right, Christopher says, I am in no way one of those guys who swears against statics, but I do have to ask why I use statics for an epic ton of methods. I love that question. Let's talk. And then I'm going to try to figure out what the heck I did to my uploader. All right, so let's talk about static methods and why I use them and why you should use them and when you should use them and when you should not use them, okay? So I want you to imagine when you set up an object, that entire object lives in memory. So if I create, let's say, an object, like for instance, when I first built the framework, all of my methods were not static. So like the find method was not a static method. Find first was not a static method. And so what happens is I had to instantiate the model in order to call a method which had no other relevant data at that point in there. So it's actually less memory to not instantiate that object and just call it directly from the class with a static method. So it's more performant, for one. Two, keep in mind that with object-oriented programming, the whole reason to do an object in the first place is to package data together with methods that manipulate or use that data. And so if there's no data that's not different from what's already in a class, the blueprint for the object, if there's no data there, then you don't need to instantiate that object. You can just use it directly from the class. So it's about performance, and it's also about the ability to just call a method without creating an object, okay? Because in most of these instances, I don't need to create an object. It just lives in the class because it should be organized with that model or that class or whatever that it's in, because it makes sense to be there, but it doesn't make sense to instantiate an object. I hope that answers a little bit of your question, but let me give you a hard example. So if you look at, so like say in my products class here, this is a model. So this whole thing is a class. And if I had this not a static method here, then what would happen is I would have to instantiate an object just to run this find by user ID. And at this point, I'm trying to find objects, okay? So when this find method right here, this returns an array of objects that gets created from the PDO query. However, just to run the method, I don't need an object. So this makes sense to have it as static. Okay, but look at this function here, validator, and this function here before save. Why are these not static? Well, these aren't static because both of these require that it has data to be manipulated, or that it requires data that's going to be different for each object. So every product has a different value in the ID. It has a different value in the user ID possibly, and all this is different. So anything that manipulates that data or a specific row, that stuff is not going to be static because it needs to be instantiated. So the validator has to be instantiated because it's looking at a specific value that's inside of the object. Well, the value doesn't exist. The value is always null in the class. It hasn't been instantiated yet, and it hasn't been populated. So in this case, this requires us to instantiate those methods. These methods, where I'm just finding stuff from the database, it makes sense that these live in this class, but there's no reason to instantiate an object. So Laravel doesn't use, okay, yeah, so Laravel doesn't use statics in their models, and I started this framework out in that way. But for example, Falcon PHP uses statics all over the place. So the Falcon model, their find methods are static. Their find first is static. Their delete, however, is not static because you're deleting a specific row in the database, so it has to be an instantiated object. Same thing with save. So that's how I've set this up. So it's not doctrine or anything like that, but if you're used to using a framework that doesn't use statics, you're like, well, why are you using statics? But in this case, in the way that we're using this framework, it's better. Okay, it's going to be more performant, and there's no reason to use extra memory or go through the process of an instantiation when you don't need to. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And hey, guys, listen. You guys may not agree with everything I say or do. I don't even agree with everything I say or do. I may change my mind tomorrow, but I've been doing this for a while, and I started off with the mentality that statics were bad, and it's not that statics are bad, they're just misunderstood. And so people don't know when the proper time to use statics are. And so people either use them for everything, and then there's no reason to use object-oriented programming, because if you're not going to instantiate an object, you might as well stuff all of those static methods into a helper file and just call them as a function, right? But yeah, that's just my view on it. Well, yeah, so that's another argument against what you're saying, Christopher. So basically, you're saying, hey, inside your models, you don't want to be, inside your models, you want to make sure that basically, how would you say that? You should make code, in this case models, as modular as possible. In my opinion, static methods are equally as module. I mean, if they're living inside of a class, you can take that class and nothing even has to be instantiated to use it. And as far as switching ORMs, you're going to have a lot of other issues with your models anyway. But hey, you guys can do however you want it to. Use interfaces, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Look, I still will argue all day long that if I don't need to create an object that gets stored in memory and takes time to process that object, so you're already loading in, so let's think about this from a performance standpoint. PHP is loading in through an autoloader, it's loaded in a class, so that already exists in memory. Then you're saying, hey, I'm going to run a find method or whatever, so instantiate me an object of that class, so it takes that and it stuffs it over here in memory. Then what I want to do is run this thing, and then I want to create a whole bunch more objects when I get the results back from the database. All I'm saying is that time that it takes to instantiate that initial thing doesn't happen. It doesn't take any more room in memory, and you're only grabbing the objects as they come. So like for instance, I'm using a static find here, but this find method itself does instantiate the products model for each row. So that is an instantiated object. This is not. So I do think like there's a lot to be said. Again, everything needs to be used in proper context. PHP is actually a really performant language, okay? If static methods were bad practice in PHP, they would remove them. Maybe not for a while. They would do a major wait until like it's PHP 10 or something, or a major release. They would have removed them in 7. But there's really good reasons why to use static sometimes. So, and hey, there's equally as many arguments we can make that object-oriented programming in general is a bad idea. That we could do functional programming instead. So we can get into all kinds of like rabbit trails and all of that. But you know, honestly, like I love object-oriented programming. I'll take the small amount of hits that object-oriented programming has that comes along with it, like a little bit of performance loss sometimes, and also the abstraction can be an issue with object-oriented programming, and inheritance can get kind of messy. But I'll take all of that for what it offers, just because it makes sense to me. I don't like functional programming because one of the biggest arguments that people have between functional and object-oriented programming is that functional programming, they're like, well, you don't know where stuff's happening in object-oriented programming. It could be happening, you know, 10 classes up or whatever, and you don't know where that code's coming from. But I'll make the same argument when you're developing functionally, because what you end up with is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of functions if you're doing it correctly, where each function has only a single responsibility. And when you're trying to debug that, you're going through function. Oh, this function calls another one. And you look through that and you're like, oh, this calls another function. You're looking through that. And by the time you're done, you're 20 files deep in these functions and you don't even know what's going on by that time either. So anyway, that's just a soapbox. I think people just get comfortable with the way they program, and then they say, hey, this is the way it should be done, and everyone else should do it this way. And I think that's dumb. I think that's just a bad approach to take, to say just because these people do it this way, it's the right way, and these people do it this way, so it's wrong. I think we have to find our own way of programming that makes sense to us. And I think on big applications, object-oriented programming makes the most sense. And not instantiating objects when you don't need to makes a lot more sense, and that's why I use statics. So I do have a method to my madness anyway, is what I'm saying. And maybe just because it's Tuesday, I decided to use static. But in this case, I think I could make a really good argument that these should be static. This should never be static. This should never be static. This should never be static. All right. So next up, where was I? Oh, we were trying to figure out what the heck's going on with our, so if you guys weren't here last time, what we had done is, we created a new class, and it is in lib utilities uploads. And what we've done, we create this, we run validation. If it validates, we have these different validation parts in here. Like for our instance, we're doing images, so we're validating that it's an image type. We're also validating that it's not over our max size. We have a few methods for adding error messages, and most of these aren't static, by the way, just one, because I might want to use this somewhere else. And there's no reason to make that not static. So here we go. Let's figure out why the heck these aren't working. So let's go to products here and go to our add action. So we're instantiating files here, and then we run in validation. Well, let's first just check and see if we, oh, sorry guys. Let's switch back to the screen. I start rambling and then I get off the screen, and then when we get back, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know if my screen's showing or not. So let's go ahead and try to add a product purposely without an image and see if the validation stops us from doing that. and it does. So we know that validation's running, and it's saying, hey, there's no, you must choose an image. So we're getting that far in the software. And what I'm trying to do right now to debug this is quickly go through here and find a few points that we can check to see if something's broken. So we ran validation. This is all good. It looks like it is validating. And then we get to the point of if validation passed, we need to make sure we're going into this if statement. So that's the next thing I want to check, is if the validation is passing on that. Let's see if it's making it into here. Upload product images. Uploads get passed. So we can check on uploads, which is an object that we created here that stores all of our upload information. So let's see. Yeah, so let's right here before that validation passed. Let's do this. Let's go into here. And let's just double check this stuff. So in here, what I'm going to do is do an H dump and die. I want to look at product ID to make sure that that's correct, because that could be the problem. And then I want to make sure that uploads is correct. We'll just do product ID first. Invalid argument supplied for each in the upload is line 64. So we are getting the product ID successfully passed. So let's look at what's going on line 64. That could just be because of our dump and die though. Yeah. Let's do a dump and die here as well. And let's look at the structure of that files. I think something's got messed up here. And I just want to do one because I have a suspicion that it's a problem with one image. Right. So this is one problem. I hate the way forms pass stuff in. So essentially, what's happening is if you pass multiple files in, then it passes the array as one way, and then if you don't, if you're just sending one, it does something completely different. So let's show you an example of that. I can't believe we're back on this freaking upload stuff. What? Now it's acting as if we're not using multi-part form data. Yeah, it's only, wow, something happened with our form, guys. Something's changed. This could actually be a merge problem too. So let's look at files. This sucks. All right, I think this is the issue. So I think what happened was, again, when I merged in my code, things changed. So now we're back to the full array. So this is all going to work now. Hopefully. But yeah, that's all going to work. So I just can get rid of all my dump and dies now. Now we'll be able to test our delete stuff. Let's get rid of this too. Yeah, good night, JJ. All right. I appreciate you guys coming on and staying on for so long. I know this is a long session. If you guys don't want to go for 3 hours, you guys let me know now, and we could shorten these things and just do a couple hours or 1 or 2 hours a week. I mean, I'm down for whatever. Honestly, 3 hours is pretty tiring for me anyway, but I also want you guys to get a lot of value out of these, so it's up to you guys. Let's see if we have any more dump and dies anywhere. I also want to get PHP debug set up so we don't have to do these dump and dies all the time. We could just throw a breakpoint in, debug things faster. All right, let's see if that indeed added our upload. I don't think it did. Son of a biscuit. I have another die somewhere. It's crazy because it's failing silently. It's not giving us any sort of explanation of why it's failing. So I guess we're back to this. I think we need to look here. We know we have product. If this is correct, then the other place we need to check is make sure we added all of our, let's look at this structure, this database table. Deleted. Oh, it added them here in the database that time, but it didn't actually upload them. All right, so it got this far. So we don't need to check this anymore. We know this is correct because it did add them to the database. It just didn't add them here. So let's see. Product. Let's see what happens here. Maybe this will give us some info. Permission denied. Back to this crap. Awesome. Well, at least we have some information to go off of now. Let's just double check that. I don't know what would have changed. Maybe GitHub or something. So let's see. Let's ls-ld uploads. All right, try it again. But now let's get rid of that. I think I know what happened. 1 second, I can't walk and talk at the same time, so I need to finish that real quick. So what's happened, this probably won't affect you guys with your code, but what I did was, since I've been working on the framework, I had some files in there left over from the last live session, and they had different permissions than our last episode, so that should have worked. And so now we have product. There we go. Man. All right. So this was a problem with me merging in the framework when I had it. My folder had different permissions from my other machine, and it changed my permissions, which is why I don't like doing this crap on the server. This is why these uploads should really be going on a separate S3 service or something like that. But anyway, we'll just deal with it while we're here. We'll just deal with it. So back now, since we got that crap working, we need to make sure we're deleting these things. So we have in the product images, we have the delete images. So this should work if unlinked set to true. So inside products, let's see, we want to go ahead and where's our delete? We're deleting that, and then we need to call the product images and delete images. So we're going to pass the product ID into that. All right, so the way that works is we will make sure we import that, and it's already imported. So in the delete here, we'll do that first. We're going to go ahead and say product images delete images, and then we're passing in the product ID for that. So that will just be ID here. And let's go ahead and try out our unlinked. So we'll set that to true the first time. And then let's go ahead and actually uncomment that and see what this does. All right, so if I go back to my products here, let's see which one's product 30 that we actually have images for. That product 30 is going to be FFFFFF. So let's delete FFFFF. So this one here is what we're looking for. Delete that. Looks like we might have had a problem here. Live uploads, product images, product 30. And the problem is I think we need to have a directory separator there. So try that again. That time it didn't work because it probably already deleted it from the database. Yeah, it did. Let's go and look at product images. Okay, it did delete it in the database there. That's a good sign. So that's working. And then Did not remove this though. So let's see what I'm doing wrong here. PHP unlink. It looks like deletes a file name. I don't know if we can delete a directory. Oh, here's one. Remove directory. It must be empty. Dang it. Just do a little Googling. PHP delete directory with and files. See if there's a way to do it quickly. I don't want to loop through each one, but we may have to. Yep, we have to loop through them. So recursive iterator. Aha. There we go. I like this one because we can delete star. Yeah, this person knows what's up. I'm gonna copy his code. That's probably one of you guys. You guys are smart. I bet one of you did that. Let me close that out. Alright, so with unlink, what we need to do, let me just paste this here so we can look at that. That's a smart way to do that, man. I like that. That's obviously not right. What was that? RM, no underscore. I promised you guys I was going to show research and everything, how I do stuff. I look at Stack Exchange, I look at everything I can get my hands on. Because you know what? Being a developer is not about remembering everything that a language can do. Being a developer is about solving problems. And if I can save myself time and save my boss money for me messing around forever and just look up something, I'll do it. I don't feel bad about it. You guys shouldn't feel bad about it either. Alright, so now we can remove the directory, so that'll be dir name. So let's see, I'm gonna go to the database now, and I'm going to go ahead and set this back to 0 for that product image, and then inside the products, inside of products, we're going to set that soft delete back to 0 as well, so that we can delete that one again. Refresh. FFFF. Delete. See what our response is. Still got a problem. No such file or directory. So I obviously got something wrong with my path. So let me just copy this path here. Oh, yep. I think I know what the problem is. We can't use the p root. It's not p root. It's just root. Because we got to look at the scope of what we're in. So inside PHP, when it's messing with directories, it needs to know the actual root of the problem. So I think that's what the real problem was with that. Of course, I still don't think we could remove the directory without removing the stuff. So we had to go through all that anyway. All right, refresh. Try it again. Opt lamp AJAX missing that directory separator right there. I think that's where I was missing it. Yep, right before uploads. And this needs to go away. All right, one more try. I think we got it this time. All right, so we at least got a success back. Let's go and check. We have deleted in the database the product and the image. So now we just need to make sure that it's deleted here, and it is. There's no more product 30, it's gone. So now we know that we can delete with unlinked to true, so we already know that this is going to work if we don't pass true to that. So if we just want to soft delete and leave the product images, then the only thing we have to change there is inside of our controller. When we pass this product images and we delete it, we just remove this true like that, and that will actually delete without unlinking the files, and it keeps those intact. So let's just, I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. We have all these like crappy directories that are actual these products that I want to get rid of. All right, so there we go. A little bit of debugging, and we got some stuff knocked out. All right, so I'm gonna close my, well, let's make sure I don't have, okay, I do have some console logs still, so let's get rid of those. And that is on, where am I, in the index here. It's this right here, that's console logging. All right, so how you guys doing? 40 minutes. All right, so we have the delete function working correctly. Gotta make sure our permissions are fine so we can upload, which is back to working. I guess a lesson I could learn from that is never assume it's a code problem if the code was working. I should have checked those permissions earlier on, and I would have known that that was the issue. Let's see, what else? I have a list of stuff here that we could do. Let's see. You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to add another action here. This, we can probably knock this out really quick for the end of the video. What I want to do is have featured products, and the featured products will basically it'll be, we could check later when we're loading in our home page, and only featured products are going to show on the home page, and then the rest of the products are going to show when they do some sort of like search, or when they do some sort of like filtering, you know, like they check they would select a specific category or whatever, and when they do that, then we show all products regardless of featured. But when people load our store, we only want our featured items to show there, because that's just going to kind of be a featured items thing, like things that are on sale or hot items or whatever. So the featured is just going to be a Boolean in the database. So it's going to be super easy for us to add that. So let's just do that. And I think that'll take us to the 10 o'clock time, probably. So let's just go to products now, go to structure. And what I want to do is add a new column, and I'm going to add that, where do I want to add it? I want to add it after shipping. Doesn't really matter though. And we're just going to call this featured. I'm going to give this the type of tiny int with a length of 1. Null, we're going to set that to allow null. And again, since we know for a fact that we're going to be testing, or we're going to be searching by featured, we do want to go ahead and set up an index for that. And since it's a Boolean, it'll be a fast index anyway. So featured, the tiny int, go, boom, save it. Let's check out our structure now. So make sure our key's added down here. It is. You guys also notice that when I add a deleted column, I go ahead and give deleted a index as well, because our find methods actually append on deleted equals 0, so it doesn't find stuff that has been deleted. Steve asked, would the name of this framework still be Rua after it has been officially released? And that I have been debating. Right now, I'm actually kind of attached to Rua, and I'll tell you why. Rua is an old Hebrew word that means wind or breath or spirit. And I think, although it's kind of hard to say, I think once people kind of catch on to Rua, I like the way that word actually kind of matches up with what I'm trying to do. It's lightweight, maybe it's a breath of fresh air, and we have a spirit of community around us. And so with all that being said, I think the word Rua kind of fits our community and our framework. But I am open, if everyone hates that and it's just me that's attached to it, I am considering changing that. But I'm in the process right now of having a graphic designer draw me up a few logos using the Rua and that idea of the wind and the breath type thing. So I just kind of I like the way that it kind of flows and fits together with that. So you guys would be the spirit of the community, right? And then the breath of fresh air, because it's easy and it's easily extendable and it's lightweight like air. So to me, I don't know, kind of fits in for me, but I could be wrong. I mean, who knows? But I like Rua. I'm probably gonna make something in my life called Rua, even if this doesn't stick. So go back here. So we have featured added now, and what we're gonna do is let's see. It's gonna be super easy. We just need to add it to our model. So back in our products.php, we're gonna add featured here, and I'm gonna put it on the end by deleted, and I'm gonna set it to, oops, I'm gonna put it by deleted. I'm not gonna call it deleted. So it's featured, and by default that is also going to be 0, because if we just add a product and we don't set that to featured, I do want to make sure that it is set to 0 by default. You guys may not want to do that, but that's kind of what I want to do. And then we need to basically add a radio or to our form, so that when we add the product, we can choose for it to be featured. Okay, so then what I want to do is, let's go back to our form here, And I think I have a form helper for this already. I'm gonna close some of this stuff just to get some of this stuff out of my way. So I'm just gonna double check. This would be great if I had the documentation done already, so I can look at my own documentation. But you guys can see I've started the process of creating doc comments and stuff for all of the methods, which will go a long way too with documentation. Checkbox block. Let's use that. So in our form, let's see, let's look at our form visually. I guess we'll just put it underneath the body for now. I'm gonna put it in here underneath this body. So checkbox block. All right, and we're just gonna, this is gonna get set up. Let's see what the parameters were on that. So label, name, checked, and input, div, and errors. So wait, what was that? So we're gonna call this, just say featured. And then it will also be featured here. And then this right here, what we're gonna end up having to do is create, let's see, inside this checkbox block, it's looking for on, I believe. Yeah, value is on. So we're gonna have to create a little bit of a method to pass that in here. But for now, what we can do is we can just kind of do a ternary operator. So we can say if this product, well, you know what? We're just gonna pass this product is checked. We'll create that, not a big deal. So if this product is checked, that's gonna be that. And then it's gonna have a class form control, and we'll give the, the surrounding div a class form group. Also call medium 12. I don't know how that'll look. We'll see. And then we just need to pass this display errors array down into that. Which we don't really need that because it's not going to be like validation on it, but cool. That's because is checked isn't created yet. Tick tock, tick tock. It's almost time. Yeah, guys, we got plenty of time. All right, so we just need this is checked method. So let's go ahead and create that. So back in our model, inside products, this is gonna be a super easy one. Public function is checked, and we're gonna say you know what, I probably did something wrong here too. So value is on. Yep. So is checked, and then up here I'm gonna get we're gonna say, I'm really used to JavaScript right now. ES6, because I use the React stuff all day, so you see me doing some weird stuff there. So is checked, and then we're just gonna return this featured, and if this featured is equal to 1, so that should be that. All right, so we have featured here. Let's see if that stays. It does not, so we have a problem there. Not a big deal. That is because that's going to be because when it assigns it, it's going to be set to on, which will switch that thing. So that's not really what we want to do. What we really want to do is right here on this assign, I want to say product featured is equal to, and then we want to know if this request get featured is equal to on. And if that's true, then I'm going to set that to 1, else it's going to be set to 0. And then inside of the let's see, where did I set that? Products blacklist. So here, I'm not going to allow assign to change that. So I'm just going to add feature to that blacklist. All right, that worked. So now all I was checking by submitting that is to see if this is still checked. So if it is, that means it's updating that model the way that we want it to, and it is. So there's that. And Steve, I can't wait to start my own YouTube tutorials on how to use Rua. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it someday. Cool. I'm really excited to see where this goes, especially because if you guys are behind it and you guys like it and use it, man, it's going to be the synergy that we'll have as a community to build this thing is going to be awesome, because there's no way that one person can do everything. There's no way that I can keep up the pace that that I've been going indefinitely. So all right, so let's go ahead and add this product, and I want to go ahead and choose it to be a featured one. So let's just name this featured product, and I'm going to give it a price of $34.54, list price of $55.49. Shipping is going to be $9.99. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab something real quick. We're doing fine on time, guys, don't worry. So I'm going to go to Amazon.com and poach some pictures from them. I'm just going to do 2. Yeah. All right. And then I think I'm going to rip off their, oops. I'm also going to rip off their description. And we'll go back to our form now. And all that Splendor. Let's upload those images. And crap, where did I save them? Downloads. All right, so now we have Splendor. Let's double check the database and make sure that it's featured. And boom, it is. So it is featured right there. Probably need to do something here where we set the rest of these to 0, just so that we don't have a problem with 0 and null type situation. You would normally do that with a database migration, which I do plan on. I do actually plan on adding database migrations to this. So all right, let's run a quick little SQL thing to knock all those down to 0. All right, so it looks like we have a featured option now. We have deleted working well, and so let's just talk about a few things that are left to do before we can really start trying to populate this thing and get the shopping cart going. We wanted this thing to be set up with vendors so that people can sign up to sell their own products on our store. So we had talked about that originally, so we need to go ahead and do that. We talked about we need a brands table, and so we can join the brands on to these things. We also will probably want to do either tags or categories or some way for people to find different items, especially if you're doing like a multi-vendor type store. It's probably better to use tags than like a singleton of a category, so that the vendors can just tag their item with a bunch of tags, and that will allow their products to be searched for by category, basically, or tag, or however you want to look at it. And so we got that kind of stuff to do. Once we have that, we can populate that table we started today with some more information like brand, and maybe those tags or whatever that we put there will go in there. Also, we need to turn on featured. So that's what we can finish today. Since we have a couple minutes, we can just do another AJAX request real quick to add featured. So let's jump over. That's going to be super simple as well. So let's just jump back to Font Awesome and get ourselves a little icon for that. So I'm going to jump over to Font Awesome, and let's just search for a star. We have these 2 stars here. So let's see what those are. It's probably fast and far. So fast, fa star. And let's see what the open one is. And it's far, fa star. Fa star. That's hard to say. Far star. All right, getting loopy. All right, so basically we're gonna do a, based upon what the boolean set on, we can change that icon. So if we want to feature this, we need to add. Let's jump back over to our view and our index view, and so inside of here, maybe we can just add this before the edit button or something like that. So we'll add another link here. And we're going to give this class a button, button small, and then let's do button warning. No. Let's do button light. All right, and then here what we're going to do, give this a class. And this class is going to be a boolean. And so what we could do is we could just echo out here. I can create we can do it 2 ways. We can create another variable, which would probably clean this up a little bit, or we can just do it in line. So since we're running low on time, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it in line here. So what we want to know is, we want to say if product is checked, okay, or we can do is product, no, we don't want to do is checked there, we can say featured, and if that's equal to 1, then we're going to return, let's see, then what we want to do is return the faz fa star else we're going to do fa star. That way if it's not featured, it should have the correct icon. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and close this. Let's see what that looks like real quick. See if I got that right. All right, so this is the only featured image, the only featured item that we had. So that's correct. I don't really like the color of that button, but I don't want to spend too much time on that right now. Let's see. Let's try the button outline info. That's kind of cool, I guess, maybe. So button outline info. All right, whatever. It doesn't even matter. So now we just want to fire off an AJAX call to update that. So it's going to be super, super easy. So what we want to do, let's see what time it is. All right, we got plenty of time. This is going to be easy. So here we need to add in our on click. We just need, well, one more thing. We're going to add some margin right on that, and then we'll do our on click. And let me just break this down to another line so it doesn't get too long here. So on our on click, we're going to do, we're just going to say toggle featured. And then we're going to return false. Okay. So down here, we just need to add another function to our script tags. So we'll do function toggle featured. And then we're just going to do a jQuery AJAX request. And for the URL, we're going to pass that to our project root. And we're going to send that to admin products. And we'll create an action called toggle featured there as well. All right, and then method is going to be post data we don't really need, well, we need the ID, so we're going to say ID, and we're going to pass in that ID there. So we'll do that in a second. That's easy. All right, and then what we want to do is after data, we want to do our success function. And then what we want to say here is let's just do an info deal, because this is probably going to pass. I mean, it might not, but whatever. So we're going to say if response.success, then we're going to say alert message, and we want to we'll just do response dot message, and we're going to pass in, if it's success, we'll just do success. Else, the only way they'll ever hit this else is if they're trying to do something goofy, like mess up someone else's image or someone else's product. So they'll never see this if they're being legit. So this, I don't even really care if this is like ugly, because they're obviously doing something wrong if they get this. Or you could have a bug in the system too. So I guess we shouldn't assume that they're trying to do something crazy. But we need to pass in that ID here on this. So all we have to do there is just echo out product ID as a parameter there. All right, so then the only other thing we have to do is go ahead and add that into our products controller as an action. So let's go ahead and do public function, and we already have our methods to find by user ID and ID. So this is going to be really easy. So we called it toggle featured action. All right, and here we can copy most of everything out of the delete thing. All right, so I'm just going to copy that crap because it's mostly the same. We're getting the ID, we're getting the product. If the product exists, we're not deleting, so we can get rid of this line. We can get rid of this. And then what we want to do is we're going to set product featured equal, and I'm going to try it this way, not product featured. I don't know if that's going to work, but I think it will. It works in JavaScript really well. And then we're going to save that, and then the success will just be let's see. I kind of want to do a message here. So what we're going to, I think what we'll do is we'll say message is equal to product featured, and we'll say if that is equal to 1, then we're going to give it a message of product now featured. Else we're going to give this product no longer featured. Okay. So we're going to pass that in as our message here. So we'll say message, and then again we're going to pass, let's see, I got an extra little quote there. So we're going to pass in the model ID the same way, because we probably want to change, this is another thing where React would be awesome. So we want to change this icon. So what we're going to do is too much time. Yeah, we got enough time still. So if it's successful, then we're going to toggle that icon. So let's see. What's the best way to do this? We have our data ID up here. We could add all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to also just, we could do this without doing this, but just to make this easy right now because I'm tired, I'm just going to add the data ID here as well. And so we're going to say product ID. All right, and then what's going to happen is in our success message, if it's successful, we want to go ahead and find that and update it. Okay, so we need one more little bit of information from the backend to make this easy as well. So instead of just model ID, we're going to pass featured back. So we're also going to say product featured, like that. So we'll have access to that now inside of here. So all we have to do now is inside the success, we're going to say we're going to search for an I with the data ID equal Actually, I need to wrap this whole thing. I don't know if this works in Atom. I need to wrap this whole thing in quotes. That does work. Good. And then we'll bust out of those. And we're going to put response.model ID. And then what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually set this to a variable. And I'm going to do two things. We're going to do l.remove. I think it's remove class. I need to probably look at the jQuery. I don't use jQuery, guys. So if it's been a long time. So let's just do jQuery remove class. It is remove class. I think you can pass. Yeah. Okay, so all we have to do now is remove. What we need to remove is fast and far. And then we're going to add a class. And here, the class that we're going to add is, we'll set up one more variable here. So we'll say var, and I'm going to say class is equal. And I want to know here if it's going to be a ternary. So if response.featured is equal to 1, then I want to make this, what was it, fast, else it's going to be far. Just so we can change those icons without reloading the page. And then we're just going to add that class in here. So I think that'll work if I haven't made any stupid typos. So let's find out. If I click this, product no longer featured. I click it again, product now featured, but that didn't work. So why did it worked removing it? Let's refresh. Okay, so it's a problem with this ternary here. So let's I just want to console log a couple things. I want to console log class, and then I'm going to console log type of response.featured, and I want to also do response.featured. This is just for debugging. Let's open up our console now, refresh. Oh, it's actually returned as a Boolean. Cool, that makes our lives a lot easier. So the reason that's not working is because I have it equal, I'm even typecasting that it has to be a string of 1, so we don't even need to do that because it's returned as a Boolean. So now if we refresh, this should actually work. Okay, so now we are updating our values in our database for our products to be featured or not. It's just a quick toggle. All right. So let's remove that console log. It's not the prettiest of code, guys. I kind of did it quickly, but it's working for now. Again, if I were doing this project not trying to just finish a PHP project, I would probably be using Vue or React, because I hate trying to remember to update all this stuff on the front end inside these AJAX requests. Alright guys, well, I think we're at a good stopping point. We're about 6 minutes early. So if you guys have any sort of questions that you'd like to ask, remember the only question that's a dumb question is one that you don't ask. So please, if you have a question, ask it. If there's anything you want to, any comments you have, if you want to tell me my code sucked tonight, that's okay too. I'm just ask you guys, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe, and comment, like, share these series with other people. because I think we're doing this in a way that if people understood they can just grab the episode branch that we're on and jump in, they could learn something and then go back retroactively and do the other courses. They don't need to have been on the first live video and been on every one to do this. So does anyone have anything they want to talk about or anything like that? I know I just said that and repeating it, but again, there's a lag between when I talk and say things to where you guys get to hear it, and so the communication is a little bit hard at this point. So what I'm going to do at this moment while I'm waiting for you guys to respond is I'm going to go ahead and commit this. So I'm going to do git branch, make sure I'm on the right branch. I'm on episode 6, so I can do a git diff. We can see our differences in these files. All right, and then what we can do is I'm just going to say git add end of episode 6. This is where we're leaving off, and then we'll push that. Steve, you're very welcome. Steve said thanks for your time. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here. Thank you guys for supporting my channel. For those of you, and I know a lot of you that are on here did this, but for those of you who went and liked my son's videos and subscribed to him, thank you so much. You guys made his day. I didn't obviously tell him that I asked you guys to do that, but he saw that his views went up because he didn't really have any before. And I just want him to be encouraged. I mean, he's only trying to do YouTube just because he sees me doing it. And honestly, it really means a lot to me that you guys did that. So thank you, sincerely from the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys for that. That's awesome. Yeah, Steve, I didn't show my screen, but all I was doing basically is doing a git commit. I was just adding our code that we changed tonight to the repository. So not a big deal that you missed that. Basically, if you want to see that, I'll just show it. I did a git add, I did a git commit, and then I did a git push. So that's all I did, and that pushed our code changes there. All right, guys. Well, since there's no questions or no comments or concerns or anything else, I think next week what we're going to try to do is continue on with adding our brands and our vendors and things like that. Maybe our categories and tags. We'll see. But I'm really excited to get through that, because once we have these products in our database, we can start displaying them and building out our shopping cart so that you can add the products to the cart. I'm excited to do that, and then I'm also excited to get into the payment gateways, because I think that's where object-oriented programming is going to shine, and we're probably going to do some interfaces or some abstract classes there, and so that in your config file you can choose what payment gateway you want to use, and then it'll just work if we set it up correctly. So that'd be awesome if we can do 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 would be the max, but at least 2 different payment gateways. Probably going to go with Stripe and maybe PayPal, maybe something else too. I don't know. We will just have to see what we get to and what you guys suggest on that. But at any rate, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and get out for the night. We're about 2 minutes early. Every other episode I've gone long, so I'm giving you guys 2 minutes of your life back. Have a wonderful week, guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next week. So with that, you guys just keep on keeping on and make the world a better place. And I'll see you guys later.